program, please do well to share. Let people know that the show is on. Okay, please come back live from Facebook. We're still trying to get a hold of her. She will be joining us very soon, and then we'll discuss this matter together. Some of the highlights of the news. Let's just quickly look at some of the highlights of the news. We all are aware that for the past maybe 5 days, 6 days now, America has been boiling. We are all aware of the Black Americans resisting what they call police brutality and the marginalization of the blacks in America. But then, you know, I've seen Nigerians take on this matter, and even we hear that there's a planned protest in Abuja. And the question I was asking this afternoon is, why are we seeming to carry America on our head so much? We agree that it's not a nice thing that happened in America, but we have worse problems in Nigeria. We have issues with police behavior. Even this last lockdown showed us some of their deeds. In Port Harcourt, we had a pharmacist that was beaten up by the police, and we also had a naval officer that actually arrested a doctor that was actually heading to work and took her to an isolation center. The woman that was going to help, that was actually on essential duty, you know. And then, of course, let's just go back a little bit. Around December, January, we had an issue where a mechanic was going to test his car and then was accosted by the police. The story is that they asked for some money, searched them, that they are called the E-crack, and then the next thing they took them to the police station, and it was from one torture to the other until one of them, called Chima, gave up the ghost. Until now, there is even no update on what is happening to this guy. We don't even know the people that killed that young man. We don't even know what's happening to the case. We don't even know. The last we heard was that they were going to investigate it. They have been summoned to come to Abuja to defend themselves before the IG, and that's it. And there is no protest about that. Which one am I going to talk about? Which one am I going to leave? It's several of them. Several of them we've had issues where SAS, you know, shot innocent people that have not been convicted by any law court for any offense. And yet we see Nigerians carrying this matter on our head. We have worse problems here. We should face it. We have worse problems here, I have to say that. You know, so while you're thinking about America, I think your concern should be more focused in Nigeria. If there's any protest to be done, we need it more here. I think if we're going to the street, we should go to the street and protest what the police, our own police here, are doing to people that are not even convicted by any court of law, that they are criminals. How they would take people, intercept them, take them into custody, make them confess to what they did not do, and if they even survive it. Do you know how many people are lying in our prisons that are innocent of the crimes they're being accused of? And I agree that what happened in America is really bad. But we have worse case, and as a matter of fact, watch that case. It will be followed to the latter. I've never seen an issue that springs up in America this much and did not have justice meted out. Watch that matter. He has already been taken into custody. He has been charged for murder and manslaughter, and it's been followed to the latter. So I advise Nigerians, okay, while you are carrying the American case in your head, remember that back home we have so much issues waiting for us here. So much issues. So if you have to do any protest, if you're joining any civil society group to go for any protest, I think what you should be protesting is, where are those people that killed Chima? What is happening to them right now? Why are we not hearing about the arraignment in court? What is happening? Where are the police officers? Are they back on duty? You know, those are the kind of questions I expect Nigerians to be asking now. You know, because we have worse problems. Okay, we have our guest on. So let me just quickly bring her on camera. Okay, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yeah, we've actually been waiting for you.
I'm sorry, trying to link up.
Yeah, good to have you join us, ma'am. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, please, I did like you to invite your friends if you're watching. We have our guest on Facebook at the moment. Please, I did like you to invite your friends. Ma'am, just hold on. I think a lot of people have logged off because they were waiting for you all this while to join in. So I'm trying to invite people to come back. Please share the video and let your friends join in back. We have our guests now. Let's talk about this matter. It's a very, very important matter, and it affects, if the children come back home, with disease or any virus, it will eventually spread. So we need to make sure that while we're preparing for back to school activities, that we get to hear from the owners of this school to know what are the plans. Yes, I agree we have public schools, but we will agree that we have more private schools than public schools. And with me today, I have Dr. Mrs. Roberta Dosunmu. She is the chairman of the Proprietors Association for Rivers State. She's the chairman of the Proprietors Association, that's owners of private schools, Rivers State chapter. She represents them. And today with us, she'll be telling us their mapped out plan. I know they've been interfacing with the ministry, and I'm pretty sure that even though we don't have the commissioner here, I'm pretty sure that they have information for us. A lot of parents have been asking, are you sure we shouldn't leave these children till the end of this year, perhaps until there's a cure or there's a vaccine for coronavirus? So before they go back to school, they are vaccinated, and then we're sure that there will not be a spread, you know. So please join in back. We already have our guest on. Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Can you hear me, ma?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can.
You're welcome to Factual Chat with Debby. You're welcome to Factual Chat with Debby. And today on the show, we're looking at the preparedness of public and private schools, though you are from the private sector. So we'll be taking you on the private schools preparedness for resumption. Now, from the news, we hear that systematically there might be a resumption of school activities from the next 2 weeks in Nigeria. And I'm pretty sure that you people have been interfacing with the government on this, because I know that there has been a large cry of people saying that you people are ready to come back to classes, that they should please lift, you know, the lockdown on schools. So tell us, how prepared are the private schools for resumption?
Yes, the private schools are really preparing. We are liaising with the national body of NAPPS, National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools in the whole country. We've given a memo, a written memo to the federal government and to the NCDC and the PTF on suggestions, on ways, on things we could put on ground before the schools can resume. And we cannot take a unilateral decision. We are working together with them. And today's news, like you rightly said, when they were addressing us, they said, yes, they are considering in the next phase, considering how schools, the lockdown can be lifted from schools. So in line with that, the private schools are getting ready, putting things on ground like, you know, washing hands, places to wash hands regularly, sanitizers, temperature checks, social or physical distancing, even if it's going to mean taking the classes twice a day instead of all one time, all coming in the morning and closing at the same time, just for physical distancing. The schools are really looking at their schools and putting all these things in place so that if at any time the government deems it fit and safe to resume, the private schools will be ready. And you know, we are sensitizing our members on all these parameters I've mentioned, as well as fumigating the compound. We can't fumigate it now and keep. But when we know that, yes, the school will resume so time, of course, all schools will be fumigated so that the atmosphere will be safe for the children.
Okay, ma'am. Looking at what you said, it's sounding nice in the ear. And most times what we have problems with are actually the implementations of these beautiful things you've said. Now we know that there are schools that we have categories of schools. There are schools that are lower standard. But I don't mean that they're bad, but they are not as what I'm trying to find the right words to say, but they are private schools of lower standards and they are private schools of higher standards in terms of environment and sanitation, hygiene, and everything. How are you people going to ensure that all these beautiful things that you people have talked about, the measures you're going to be taking, making sure that the students are sitting spaced from each other, at least 1-2 meters away from each other, and maybe reducing the time of class and all that? How is there any measures being put on ground to ensure the implementation of these things amongst your members?
Yes, we are putting down committees in the various local government areas that will go around to inspect these schools. And if there are schools that are not meeting up to the standard, we will now know what to do, advise them, and even help them on how to meet up with the standard. We cannot just say it and leave it. We are going to go round these schools in our various local government areas with these committees. Various committees are being set up so that they can go around. Government is going to form such committee. We will be members. We will appeal that we will be members of those committees to go around to ensure that these things are in place before the students come in. So it's not just.
Let's also look at the government's role in this.
Yes.
Definitely, there will be a task force. Is there any punishment that you're working together with the government to ensure that there's a punishment awaiting any offender, anybody who does not follow the proceedings? And then secondly, if you look at the classroom structure, some schools have already built their classes. They're not going to build extra. And they have a particular number of students. And so for some schools that are already overcrowded, and now there will be social distancing. Some schools actually have A, B, C. But for some schools, you have just one class housing everybody in a particular form. Let's say there's primary 5 or basic 5, and there's a particular class housing every class member of that class. How would you ensure social distancing? Is it that some people will come in the morning and some will come in the evening for those kind of schools? Because if they already have a seating structure and a particular number of students, how would they alter that? It's a question that comes to mind.
Yes, even the national body, the NDC, they are also proposing that in order to be very effective with the physical distancing, schools may have to operate twice in the day. Some will come in the morning, some will come in the afternoon, so that you can effect that physical distancing. Then schools that have enough space, instead of having 2 on one desk, you now have 1. And then have another class for the rest. Because some have enough space, some that don't have, then they have to do twice a day. All these are things we are considering. So all these are proposals we are making. And in terms of the government, we've not come to any final agreement. We are still working, we are still meeting. We are still meeting with the Honorable Commissioner and all the directors, all the stakeholders, in fact. We meet regularly because we are still discussing how the implementation, if they resume, the implementation will be done.
Okay. Punishment mapped for any that's offense. Oh, we've lost our guest. I'm pretty sure she will join back very soon. Please, if you're watching and you have a question, if you have a child, and perhaps you want to ask a question, the lady that I have on today is the perfect person for that question. She is the chairperson of the Association for Proprietors of Private Schools in River State. There is a national body and she is their chairman in River State. So if you have a child that is in school and you have any question that you would like to ask her, please, I will advise that you put your question on the wall so that we can get to ask Dr. Mrs. Dosunmu this question, okay? we have lost her, but hopefully she will come back very soon. You're still watching Factual Chat with Debbie, and so far we've been talking with Dr. Mrs. Dosunmu, and she was talking to us about measures that have been taken to ensure that when they come back to school, the back to school plan will be smooth, and that when children return back to school, there would be measures taken to ensure their safety. She has actually told us that there will be 2 batches of classes. There will be 1 class for morning, and there will be 1 class. We'll have her back on. There will be 1 class for morning. There will be 2 sessions, and it will be a shorter period of learning. You know, she was about to answer a particular one before it went off. I don't know why she's not joining, but I'll try again. Okay, I think we have her. Welcome back, ma'am. Sorry, we lost the call at some point. You're welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, so you were going to explain to us the other measures that were being taken before the call went off. Let me refresh your memory. We were talking about the number of students in a class, and you already told us that in that scenario there will be 2 classes, 1 for morning and 1 for afternoon. And then you also did educate us that so far there's no punishment earmarked. You understand? Now we're looking at the curriculum. It's already been altered. What would be done to ensure speedy meetup? Will there be a new curriculum? Will there now be a new timetable? How would it be structured?
Yes, during our discussions, we were told that a new timetable will be brought out by the government, by the ministry. And it's very likely that most of the holidays will be very short to meet up. And then also, there will be a lot of cleaning, even while the students are in school. The classrooms, the tables, they will be regularly, the cleaners will come around to clean, to sanitize, so that the students do not carry anything, even the teachers. Yes.
Okay, I think we have a question from someone here. Vian Ben says, I hope teachers will also be put into consideration. I hope their salaries will be increased, or they will hire more teachers, since it's going to be morning and evening sessions. So one would think she's a teacher for asking that question, because she's thinking about the teachers now.
So. Yes, I think so. Of course, we are also asking for palliative from the government. For instance, we are asking that we should have loans like they are doing we should in fact be involved in the small and medium scale loans that from central bank, so that we too can also meet our obligations towards our teachers. So teachers definitely will be considered.
And Ma, there's also this question that has been popping up my head. Are there possibilities that there are some private schools that are not under this umbrella? Are there possibilities that there are private schools that are operating in Rivers State? They are not members of this association. And if there's a plan that is being put together by this association, and there's any tendency there are people that are not members of this association, I see a clash. I see that we would actually go back to classroom. Children will go back thinking that everybody is carried along in this beautiful plan you have spoken about. But there are schools that are not that are not covered under this umbrella. There might be in some nooks and crannies that people don't know about, that actually will still be taking care of children, and the come back to school will still include them. What will be done to such people or to such schools?
Yes, if there are such schools, I will advise them to come and join NAPPS now. If there are such schools, they should come and join NAPPS so that we can be under the same umbrella to carry out all these measures, to put these things on ground, and then to have one voice, to speak with one voice, in negotiating, in discussing with the government at all levels. So that is an advice. And if we come across such schools, at that point in time, we'll know what to do. In terms of measures for schools that do not put these things on ground, we'll also have a common ground with the ministry, because it's all part of the discussion, which we have not finalized.
Okay. So in other words, on your normal operations,
Yes.
are there no punishments spelled out for private schools that are operating without being registered? Are there no spelled out punishment? Because you know, you sounded very mild on it just now. It didn't seem like there was any punishment. Because if you say there's a task force, now this task force only knows the registered members, though, so they'll be going for inspection. And let me also shock you that the population of students in these unknown private schools might even be more than the population of students in the registered private schools, because we know we have more poor populace in Nigeria than the rich. You understand? So what are the measures? I need to hear, is there any punishment mapped out for such a school, let's say on ordinary basis without COVID-19 springing up? Is there any punishment for an unregistered private school operational in River State?
Yes, you know, the ministry is our regulator. The ministry regulates education in the state, Ministry of Education, and even the federal ministry. So we are all approved by the Ministry of Education. So if there are such schools, the first thing is to find out if they have been approved by the Ministry of Education. So if they have not been approved, then they have to be told to take measures. Those, our members, we know our members, and if our members are defaulting, then of course we know how to handle them. But so far, they've been cooperating and working with the association in